Hi, my name is Jake Sherman, and I am arguing against the resolution that this House believes prisons should be abolished. Since my opponent failed to define what the resolution means, I will. First off, abolition means that a government puts a formal end to a system, practice, or institution. Secondly, prisons are places where people are incarcerated for a crime or illegal act. Therefore, this resolution means that people should no longer be incarcerated and prisons should be eradicated. There are many issues with the abolition of prisons. First concern is what will we do with the criminals? If prisons were abolished, it is very far from certain that crime would be abolished too. This would lead to a major problem in society because there will be a significantly higher percentage of criminals walking the streets. A main benefit of prisons is it keeps murderers and thieves off the streets. If prisons are abolished, it will lead to more criminals, which would lead to a significantly less safe environment, which would ultimately lead to many people being afraid to leave their respective homes, which would then lead to the economy being worse because the only people walking the streets will be criminals and not your everyday worker. According to the article titled Abolishing Jails is Lunacy, crime can never be abolished, so prisons cannot be abolished either. This article further proves that while there are some concerns with the way prisons are ran, fully abolishing them is an unrealistic approach to it. Another problem with fully eradicating prisons is the effect it would have on the economy. According to the Federal Bureau of Prisons, there are approximately 50,000 people employed by prisons. That is a lot of people that would be out of work if prisons were abolished. Since the economy is just beginning to recover from the recession, eradicating 50,000 jobs would not be a good move politically or economically. Going hand in hand with the loss of jobs, the unemployment payments the government would have to make would be large too. So basically, eradicating prisons would lead to at least 50,000 jobs being lost and a negative impact on the economy. Also, if approximately 50,000 jobs are lost, there are about 50,000 families that would be affected, and they could lose their homes or be forced to reduce their standard of living. Another concern with the abolition of prison is where will the criminals go to get their lives back together? According to James S. Vaca, who wrote, "Educated prisoners are less likely to return to prison. Since 1990, the literature has shown that prisoners who attend educational programs while they are incarcerated are less likely to return to prisons following their release. This assists in explaining how prisons are essential towards people. With prisons, inmates are able to receive an education they potentially could not have gotten without going to prison. Although going to prison is not an ideal way to get your life back on track, prisons allow you the opportunity to do it." Also, the article states that the right kind of educational program leads to less violence by inmates involved in the programs and a more positive prison environment. Lastly, this article helped explain that majority of inmates have very low or no employable skills, so the programs ran inside the prison is essential to the inmate not returning to prison. Basically, it is very hard to disagree with the fact that prisons aren't perfect. There are many issues, but as I stated before, abolishing prisons is not the correct decision. A good reform to prisons would be to better staff facilities because that could provide the opportunity for staff to see, understand, and participate more actively in the entire process of the treatment of offenders, which would allow them greater satisfaction and pride in their work while also assisting in the bettering of the inmates in the long run. Responding to one of my opponent's main points that prisons have a low quality of life, while this may be true, the low quality of life is what assists the inmates in not wanting to return. Also, to go along with your statistics about rape and other sexual problems, while this is a very disgusting habit that goes on in prisons, it is another reason why an inmate would never want to return to prison. Lastly, while my opponent uses many statistics, she fails to cite any of the sources, and it does not allow me to know how good this information truly is. Overall, there are definitely issues with the prison system. However, eradicating prisons would be a huge mistake because it would take away jobs, allow criminals to walk the streets, and will not allow people to rehabilitate their lives. Thank you.